Well, hola, compañeros. It's your old pal, King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Hit the buttons that people tell you to hit at the beginning of their videos. Be good little audience members. I want to address a couple of comments that have come in on some of my recent videos talking about the controversy around the Hodozi race and the new 5th edition version of D&D's Spelljammer setting. Now, I don't want to alienate anyone too much because these comments were an attempt to agree with my overall sentiment that much like the orc elf human controversy, the reflex to try to racialize the messaging that was in the depiction of the Hodozi is kind of like the wrong liberal reading of that text. I mean, yeah, if you want to trigger immediately off of a couple of keywords like boats come to planet and set out nets, then sure, you can take the racial angle that you want to take with that, I guess. But if you then continue to read the whole thing before you form your opinion, to me, it's much more about the scientific exploitation of non-sentient animal creatures. It's something more akin to The Secret of Nim. Oddly, I've had a couple people though comment that it's like Planet of the Apes. That's not a good take. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to try to be gentle. Planet of the Apes, like I said right off the bat, I guess it depends on which Planet of the Apes are you talking. Are we talking the original film series? Or are we talking the newer prequel trilogy about Caesar, the Rise of the Dawn of the War of the Planet of the Apes trilogy? In which case, yeah, there's an element of animal experimentation in that, but there's also a bunch of stuff about disease vectors and societal collapse. There's different angles to be had in that, and also the ape society that Caesar was crafting in those movies was much more egalitarian than what was depicted in the original Planet of the Apes movies. But I tend to default back to those being the actual Planet of the Apes movies, since those weren't set like 1,000, 2,000 years ahead of the films. That was the actual events of the futuristic world where apes have evolved from men and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing of that in the Hodozi text. They're not a bunch of different sub races of different style of apes. There's not orangutan Hodozi who are rivals with chimpanzee Hodozi who are being lorded over by the military might of gorilla Hodozi. There's none of that kind of stuff in there. Really, if they had just gone with the original text out of the Spacefarer's Handbook for 2nd edition, most of this could have been avoided because they were just another race that was out there in space that just happened to have a simian origin. But jumping to Planet of the Apes just based on the fact that they are simians is just as lazy thinking as jumping to the conclusion that this has something to do with race because they're simians. And Planet of the Apes was the original Planet of the Apes was like a statement, an analogy for human racial hierarchies, even down to quite famously in the production behind the scenes, the various actors, who are having to wear the various kinds of ape makeups and stuff, like when they're on their lunch breaks, and it's not like they could just strip out of all this stuff that they spent hours putting on in the morning when they still have more shoots to do in the afternoon. They would kind of naturally segregate themselves. And the way in those original movies, each type of ape kind of had its own particular, role to play in society, and there is very little deviation outside of what those expectations were. Which, especially considering the time period when that was made, there are things to be pulled out of that about how humans interrelate to each other and form social roles based around ethnicity and stuff. I feel as a society we have evolved past that since then, but that's still not the proper analogy. Maybe y'all haven't seen The Secret of Nim or read Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of Nim, but that was a thing where scientists had taken some science study rats and had been, trying to flowers for Algernon them into becoming, sentient little creatures, and then they escape, and then they're, trying to educate and uplift other rats and stuff. That's much more what the Hodozi have going on, and I just, like I said, I don't mean anything mean by it. It's just jumping to Planet of the Apes as a substitution for that's what it means instead of it being a racial message. That's wrong. For one thing, you're like I said, you're leaning into a movie that actually was trying to say something about race relations on some level by dehumanizing it and putting it in the form of like other near human species, so you can see it a bit more plainly than you can, with a human cast, so to say. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's about it. Just try to get your analogies straight, guys. And don't undermine yourself subconsciously, which might be going on there too. I don't know. Either way, I'm sure you'll disagree in the comments below and all that other stuff. Hit buttons to subscribe and or unsubscribe as you wish. And until next time, stay ape.